Welcome to Devotions from Israel, a 5-minute word of encouragement. Today's passage is Mark chapter 9. Humility, as it has been defined, is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. That's pretty profound, is it not? Today's encouraging word comes from Mark chapter 9, and I want to share these words about humility. This was an important lesson that the disciples needed to learn. Capernaum was a town located on the northwest corner of the Sea of Galilee. Already we can read from various other passages of what Jesus did in this town of Capernaum. We could open to Mark 1, Mark 2, Luke 7, John 6 as a few examples of how he taught here, how he performed miracles here. He was deemed, that is, Jesus was deemed with smikah, or authority. And he certainly taught and performed miracles as if he did have authority. He was recognized by others as having authority. But these disciples needed to learn a lesson on humility. I think that Peter, Andrew, James, and John, for instance, local fishermen, and perhaps even Matthew, who was a tax collector here at Capernaum. Maybe some of the other 12. They wrestled with what it meant to be a humble citizen of God's kingdom. Well, listen to what Jesus did and what he taught here in Mark 9 concerning humility. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, that is Jesus, he asked his disciples, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet because on the way they were arguing about who was the greatest. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last, and the servant of all." He took a little child whom he placed among them, and taking the child in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." So the encouraging word for us today is we are to live a life of humility as servants of the kingdom. That's a very difficult lesson to learn at times because, after all, we want, in our natural way, to perhaps have people recognize us for what we're doing in the kingdom. Perhaps we compare ourselves with others, and we want to sort of be on the top. We want to be one of the greatest, don't we not? Do we not? In terms of what we do for and on behalf of the kingdom of God. And yet Jesus wants us to be humble. I think it's in our humility that we find ourselves as children of God, called by His grace. When we walk a humble life, we are encouraged to view ourselves not as being great in and of ourselves, but we are only who we are based on and because of God's saving grace and His calling upon our lives to be servants in the kingdom. Humility is not thinking less of ourselves, but thinking of ourselves less. perhaps allowing someone else to have the spotlight while we serve the King of Kings and Lord of Lords with humility. I think it's in our humble state that we recognize our worth in the kingdom of God. So be encouraged today, and don't be concerned about being the greatest. Simply strive to walk humbly before your God, my God, as Jesus gives us opportunities to serve him. Until next time, shalom.